Welcome to Jam with Sam.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, Ritika.
Good evening, Sam.
Welcome to Jam with Sam. This is the 21st episode. So, I couldn't find much of you on Facebook.
Yes.
Very, either you put up less photographs over there, a lot of other stuff over there. But I found an interesting hairstyling, so I'm going to talk about that later.
Sure.
So, how did you start? How did you get into, work, what you're doing right now, your first job?
So, I actually started when I was 16, and the funny thing is that I was stranded in, it's also there in one of my talks, I was stranded in a bus, I think near Goregaon, and it was 26 July 2005. And I was like, what is this? It's crazy, like, people are rescuing each other, and there's like mayhem, and everyone's panicking. And then somehow, after a few hours, when we made it home, I realized that everybody was out of their homes, distributing food and water to people, and there were stories of children having, gone missing. So I don't know, maybe that was a trigger, but since I was a child, I always felt like doing something for the country, maybe because my uncle would tell me bedtime stories of freedom fighters. And it was there, and that was sort of a trigger, and I felt like if I died tomorrow, I would have done nothing like interesting with my life. And then came the opportunity of joining Rotaract Club in school, and we started going to orphanages and doing a little bit of charity work. And school got over, and I was like, okay, now what? I'm not the Rotaract president anymore, and I'm on my own in college. And then there was nothing for about a year. And when I was 18, that's when I heard a story of a young boy called Ashok. And this was the E-Cell, the entrepreneurship cell in Jai Hind College. And there was this really amazing gentleman called Vipin, who was from Ashoka's youth venture.
Okay.
And he was telling this story about this boy who was 18 and working with children in the Kolaba slums. Some of you may have heard about him. He's pretty famous. So he was teaching football to kids in his slums. And his intention was to get them off alcohol. And I asked, later that what has he done? Like, has he studied? And he said, no, that's his passion. Football is his passion, and that's what he knows. So he's offering that to the community, and his success rate was mind-blowing because everyone that he interacted with got hooked onto football. He got them back into school, got them de-addicted, and then told people in the community that if you don't send your girls for football training, I'll stop teaching your boys. It's like, what an intelligent guy. And in those communities, they wanted that their boys stay off those substances and go to school. So they traded that and they sent their girls. And after I heard that story, the talk got over, I ran to him, I said, listen, what can I do? Like, how can I take the next step? And they said, write in. And then I received a fellowship from Ashoka's youth venture. And that's where the journey began of starting Young Innovators Foundation, which was then called My India Empowered.
Okay.
And I started in my living room with 3 domestic children of my domestic help. And so when Vipin asked me in the workshop that, what do you want to do? I said, I want to work with construction site workers, do awareness programs in colleges. I said so many things. I said, I want to change the world. He said, hold on, woman, relax. Where do you want to start? I said, okay, maybe with 6 children. Oh, he's like, okay, no, from changing the world, you want to start with 6 children? He said, listen, you can talk about 30, you have that kind of potential. So I was like, yeah, okay, that sounds good. So from one extreme to the other extreme, silly, passionate, young. So we started in our living room. My sister is right here. She's the co-founder. I had another few friends who joined in. And the word spread in the community. 3 became 6 and 20 and 30 and 40, and the sofas went out, and all the other furniture was pushed aside. And then we moved to the lawn, and then we moved to a nearby school. So it's a venture in education. And whatever we knew as young college students, we thought we'll share with them. And another reason they stayed was because my mother would make these huge patilas of khichdi.
Okay.
So the kids would love that. And that's how we started, with no real pedagogy or, no backing or no real curriculum as such. It was just like a bunch of us, and yeah, that's how we started.
So what is how do you get the funding for all this stuff?
Oh, interesting question. We started with 5,000 rupees, which was given as seed capital by Ashoka's Youth Venture. And that also, we had been given so much training that use very well and make your contingent fund and learning fund and this fund and that fund, and we didn't know much about funding in those days. So we just bought one blackboard and some crayons, and we started class. And we realized that for a very long time we didn't need a lot of funds. But then as our work started gaining momentum and popularity, and we moved from the nearby slum kids in the school, we started working in Sanjay Gandhi National Park. And the work started, we built a little schoolhouse, and then we realized, now funding is important. So we reached out to everybody in the community, friends, family, friends of friends. And initially it was very difficult because we were not registered. So they were like, passionate young change makers, aaj ye interest hai, kal kuch aur hoga. That's the kind of things we used to get to hear from people. So it was very difficult to fundraise initially. But then, because there were few people who really believed in us, the word spread, and people started to support. Even till today, we don't have a strong backing in terms of funding, because our focus has been now on curriculum and doing what we do best, which is creating that space for young children and parents and families. So that aspect is still a little weak.
Okay.
We don't have any corporate funding or any backing. It's still pretty much either crowdfunding or, people who know us by word of mouth.
So how do you like to take this to the next level? See, everybody talks about, you've got to keep growing. Because if you don't grow, you're going to decelerate over there. You have to accelerate. So how are you going to take it to the next level?
So let me first share what we're doing so you might understand what would the next level be for me. So having started without any sort of, background, everything grew very organically. So we started doing research in the education sector and started studying curriculums and modules, Akansha Foundation, Teach for India, Teach India, whatever we could get our hands on, make contacts and say, hey, can you share this book and that part of your pedagogy? And then we realized that whatever we did, it just felt like, something more, something really magical is still to come. That's the feeling we would get. And we chanced upon something called the Waldorf curriculum, or the Waldorf way of doing things. So it's actually a German-based curriculum which has a way to teach children not just to nurture their intellect, but also their soul and their emotional self.
Okay.
So they have a curriculum for that. People say, okay, everyone's saying mind, body, spirit these days, okay? But when you ask them, okay, how can you nurture the spirit? There's like a big question mark. So we chanced upon this philosophy, and I did my training as a Waldorf educator, and I got my certification. And slowly, we realized that there is something which is really possible, which is magical with these children. And we started nurturing their sense of touch, their sense of balance, and started working with them on really deep emotional levels. And that's when change started coming. So one village led to the other village, to the other village. So I don't know how many of you have been to the Sanjay Gandhi National Park. There are these little padas or villages where people live inside, and they've been labeled as encroachers. And they've been living there even before the park was formed. So they don't have electricity, they don't have toilets, not clean drinking water, and people want to come there, and NGOs want to come there and get them ready for corporate jobs. Okay, so everyone's coming in wanting to teach them ABC, and you have NGOs fighting to, you come on this day and I'll come on this day. The children don't have breathing space. They just want to teach ABC and click pictures and put it out there because it's really cool to make social change these days. So in these many years of engaging with the children, we realized that something deep has happened. We formed a bond with them, and there is a trust. And the boundaries of rich and poor have been blurred by the relationship that we formed with them. And the parents have started trusting us to the extent that we told them that, we want to take 30 children to a place called Auroville, which is down south near Pondicherry. And we said that we want to fly your kids there. And these are Adivasi, parents who have never imagined, first, that their kids would get an opportunity like this. Two, they don't think beyond like the next meal or at max, what is the next festival, and yeah, it's pretty much that for them. So the fact that they trusted us and let us take 30 children on a learning journey, and it all came about because of the shift that came in us working there and realizing that we're teaching them save electricity, but we're bloody leaving switches on at home. We're saying save water. That's what we teach kids, right? For the new optimistic world, you're our future. And we're having these long showers and telling them to have bucket baths. So when that shift came about, we decided that, our pedagogy has to change. What we teach has to change. How we do it has to change. So we took them on this journey, 30 children on a plane with about 13 volunteers, 1 camera, and it was a journey of our life. We literally came back transformed. 5 days, children from 3 villages lived together, cooked together. So even there is para rivalry. Us bache se mat baat karna, neighbors, don't talk to each other and stuff like that. They went as children from 3 different villages and came back as one tight family. So when we would take attendance, it would be like, okay, this para done, okay, this para. The last day, we couldn't figure out who's who and who's where, to the extent that, one girl vomited, and it's a little disgusting by any standards. Her vomit fell and flew on the person sitting behind. And she had so much compassion that she just cleaned the vomit off her face, thought, I'm going to clean myself up later, went and attended to that child who was from another village, who sometimes parents say don't even talk to them. And when we saw that, oh my God, this is the result of the work that we're doing, we were really moved. And then we knew that we had to take it to the next level. And next level for us meant deeper relationships, getting education to do what it was meant to do, which is transform lives. And when children move out, they're not lost into this world, so that they can be independent thinkers, they can be compassionate human beings, and they can be morally upright. So that was sort of, the intention. And this trip cost us 5 lakh rupees.
Okay.
And the craziest thing was that from Malishwalis who heard the story, so suppose one of our friends went to someone's house and said, hey, these guys are planning to take these 30 kids to Auroville. And she says, okay, here's a check of 11,000 rupees. So this lady who's doing Malish, she's doing her therapy. She lives in Virar in some remote place. Okay, and barely earns a few thousand rupees a month. She says, here's my contribution. And she handed over that day's money for this trip. So literally from maids and people like that to, let's say, E-Zone. E-Zone supported us in taking the kids to Auroville. That's how, we sort of funded it. And then we realized the power of experiential journeys. And to have a pedagogy that can cater to the soul, and it requires certain materials, it requires certain infrastructure. So that is where we want to take it, and that's what we mean by scaling. Okay. And for that, we need to invest in ourselves and our learning process. So of course, we don't want to always be spending time writing emails and, going to people's homes to raise these funds. It would be amazing to just have an inflow and to just dream and get all those ideas to flow into reality, into the physical space. Because if you hear the stories of change, trust me, they're going to make you cry. Like, I literally wail. Like, you know, they say that, okay, now she's going to go, that's exactly how they, you know, say that that's going to happen to her. So that's what scaling means. And yeah, I don't know, I haven't cracked this bit yet. And I am quite optimistic that it will happen, because we've never worried about the funds. They've come in somehow, but we would not like to worry, and we just wish that there was like a magic wand or enough people who say, okay, every month I'm going to, you know, commit this, and we don't have to call them up and follow up. You know, money keeps coming and ideas keep getting implemented.
Tell us about your TEDx experience and how did you manage to present at an international level? It's very tough going for a TEDx talk over there. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, screening and all this which happens with it. So how did you manage it, not in India, but at an international level?
Right. So I don't know, this is just serendipity, because when we just started the venture, I hadn't even done much work. It was barely 9 months into just this dream. I had a dream, okay? I didn't know how it was going to come into reality. And a lot of people believed in that dream. So this man who I spoke about earlier, Vipin, he was nominating people from India for a competition abroad, which was Youth Social Entrepreneur Achievement Award, which was going to take place in the United States. And from India, he nominated me because he was the coordinator for India. So Youth Venture is in many parts of the world, and every country had to send some nomination. So we were competing with change makers and their ideas on a global level. So first, I don't know how, we made it into the top 10. And then the prize was that if you make it into the top 5, you get invited to come to Boston and meet all the other change makers. It was the US Youth National Summit, so Youth Venture National Summit. So we made it into the top 5, you know, my sister and I, and we just couldn't believe it. So we get tickets to go to Boston.
Wow.
It's a fully paid trip with an opportunity to be mentored by really amazing people, Lemelson, and you know, there were big brands out there, Best Price and Ashoka Foundation, Staples. And over there, I was given the opportunity to present, you know, or just share my ideas about the future, about the venture and my dreams. And I got to speak at MIT.
Wow.
And we also got to visit Harvard, I remember. So when I was speaking over there, I think, you know, someone somewhere felt connected, and then they took a short interview and we sort of got in touch, and I was in touch with those people. And they recommended, they had friends in Taiwan who were doing TEDx Taipei, and they said that we know this young change maker from India, and we've heard her speak, you know, at MIT, so you should invite her. And that's how I got invited at TEDx Taipei. And when I was presenting there, these guys were based in Boston who had initially, you know, recommended me for Taiwan. And when they did an event in America, they said, oh my God, we have to have you here. And by then, the venture had already grown. It was already a few years into, you know, we had accomplished a lot more. There were stories of change to share. So that's how I got invited to Woodlands in Texas.
Fantastic. And you've spoken in India also?
Yes, at InspireEd and at an ISIC conference. And yeah, I mean, I like to speak, so I get the opportunity, I guess.
So what's your favorite platform? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn?
Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah.
So any reason? What about LinkedIn? You don't think of LinkedIn as?
I think it's a little bit cold. Like, yeah. I like human spaces more. Like, it's so crisp and networking based, and you know, everyone's just reading your CVs, and it's very like that for me. Whereas Facebook, even though I don't post a lot of pictures, is human. You can be yourself. You can have that picture you picked up, that Superman where my hair is all like messed up and I'm in a garage, right? So I like humanizing myself, and I like humanizing spaces. And Twitter is too fast for me. I am not so fast, you know, especially on the digital front. So.
Something about your family.
Oh, well, I can write like a book on my family.
Okay, 1 page.
So I think I am where I am because of my parents, and they've been the most non-interfering parents. And growing up, to have had the freedom to choose whatever I wanted to do was most important for me, to just be able to do what I've done. So the fact that my mother was the official caterer for these Sunday classes, the fact that they compromised on their home space to let a mad girl do this, You know, like how many parents allow that? And my father has been non-interfering. He said, whichever course you want to do, just tell me, go ahead and do it. So from graphology to face reading to calligraphy, you name it, and I've done it. You know, like thanks to my father. My sister has been an inspiration. She's aced 5 years in college. Every year, it's like you look at the list. Okay, she's on top. Okay, she's on top. You know, so my brother is a mad genius again. He's 18 or 19 now. But you just talk about something, and he will like tell you pages on it. There is no subject in the world that I've not heard my brother speak on. And it's pretty cool. So having that space around, which is constantly stimulating and supportive, I guess does half the work for you.
Fantastic. Whom do you admire as an entrepreneur?
So I don't have big entrepreneurs who are my inspiration. It's mostly these little stories that I hear from Africa sometimes, Israel sometimes, Romania sometimes, or little towns of India, or when I'm like traveling, I meet these really cool people. I think it's those people who I can connect with, who I know, and I can feel, are the ones who inspire me on a daily basis. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Now quick gun, Sam.
Oh.
One witty answer. And some of them are not in this. I just think them up automatically.
Okay.
Okay. Narendra Modi.
Something I like about him, but I don't think he's fully equipped to realize his dreams.
Okay. Money.
I have an interesting relationship with it. I'm still exploring.
Okay. Startups.
Amazing, the way forward for the world.
India.
A lot of potential, not converted yet.
Not converted. Bollywood.
I'd like to do a movie someday.
Okay.
I think it's an interesting space.
Okay.
Has a great potential to make change in the world.
If you had one chance to relocate yourself anywhere in this world, where would you like to go?
No. I'm very happy where I am. But yeah, in India, maybe elsewhere, but otherwise, I don't want to be relocated. Right.
Fantastic. Do you think being a woman is much tougher to be an entrepreneur in India?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's just the prejudice that comes, or I don't know, it's not even so conscious, it's very subconscious. I'm sorry, a lot of men here, that slight male ego, or that little bit of like the conditioning that there is, you know, in society. So it's not always apparent and on the surface, but it's there somewhere. Yeah.
So undercurrents. But do you think is it improved in the last couple of years?
Well, yes, it has.
So you
I'm
think
here.
Okay. Word of advice to all the young entrepreneurs out here.
Word of advice. It's not really advice, but so this is something I wrote years ago, which inspires me, okay? The world is a canvas, and you can paint it in the colors of your choice. Some dull and some bright, some dark and some light. In the end, the picture tells the story of each one's glory. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ritika. It was amazing.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you get your mug. So you can have your coffee. I forgot one question. Sit down once again. Hairstylist.
Oh, yes.
So I saw all those crazy photographs of you cutting people. One of them was
cutting people?
Cutting people's hair. Okay, okay. So tell us something about that.
So I have a very strange belief, and I think it's possible. So I want to be everything. So in this life, I want to be a singer, dancer, actor, hairstylist, and many more things, poet and writer. So I thought, okay, hairstyling. So somebody I dated was a hairstylist, and he taught me on, you know, like when we were together. And it's just fun. I like sculpting people's hair, and I think it's a way to get rid of the crap. Also sometimes mentally, you know. So it's something that really makes me feel light after I've given someone else a haircut. So it's a hobby. I'm not really that cool a hairstylist.
Cool.
Come at your own risk.
Fantastic. That's for you.
Thank you so much.
So we can get the profile photo.
Facebook. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.